what you've got actually in there that's the leaflet that comes with it, because this is the bad boy itself, and it won't fit in the frame because it's so chunky monkey.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I am Andy, and the fellow over there is John. We are here to listen to some music, not in that order. But John is going to offer up something for me to go off and give a go, and then we're going to come back and chop it up. John, what's in the chamber, buddy?
So yeah, it has been just over a decade since this blessed artist shuffled off our mortal coil. It's someone that we've been exploring recently, Mr. David Bowie. Yeah, there's some really good stuff on British TV recently about that, because he died a couple of days after his birthday and after Black Star was released, etc. And there was this documentary, which is more of a montage. It was no commentary, called Moon Age Daydream. It just had these bits from his career and then bits of him talking and stuff, that interview, but it flowed into each other really trippily, and it was really good visuals, and just thought, yeah, a bit of Bowie. So we're going to check out some early Bowie, and this is called In the Heat of the Morning, and this is a live recording that they used to do for the BBC when they do sessions. This is back in the 60s. This is a live recording.
Okay.
So yeah, check it out, see what you think.
Yeah, full disclosure, God, I can't believe this is the second time this has happened. In fact, the first time it ever happened, it was the impetus for me going off and listen to outside of like Labyrinth notwithstanding, like go off and go listen to David Bowie perform and play music. Then that was Man Who Sold the World. Nirvana opened up that door for me. This is an interesting one, God knows how many years later, where I've heard the Last Shadow Puppets play this song. Yeah. So if it's the same one, I assume it is. It sounds like you just gave me confirmation that it was.
Did you see, was it the full orchestra one?
It was just audio, but I do remember there being like orchestral elements in it, obviously. Yeah, right. So interesting that and I have a bit of irony that's how I got into Bowie the first time, and now getting back into him, it's again through having heard a cover of his song and now going off and to listen to the original one. So let me do just that. It'll be a fun thing to hold up against what I haven't heard that version in some time by the Last Shadow Puppets anyway. So but yeah, let me go off, give this thing a go with that in mind, and come back and let you know what I think.
Sunset in your eye will tantalize every man who looks your way. I watch them sink before your gaze, senorita sway, dance with me before their frozen eyes.
Yeah, so far, this sounds fairly similar to the cover of it that I am familiar with. I've yet to hear this original version, so it's nice to be able to do that. I think it's the Last Shadow Puppets version that I am familiar with. I don't think that I'm actually quite certain of it. But yeah, it's nice to hear that. And it sounds like we're early days here, but the version that I'm familiar with sounds like a pretty true to the original iteration of it, with the exception of some more modern production quality out of it. I mean, aside from that, and maybe being a little bit faster in tempo, it sounds like it's going to be the same thing, and it's lovely, this version, this original version.
I'm so much in love, like the ragged soldier catching butterflies. No man loves like I love you. Would heat of the morning, in the shadow I'll clip your wings, and I'll tell you I love you, in the heat of the morning.
I want to take that back. In the heat of the morning. That sort of cadence that he uses there sounds great.
I'll tell you I love you, in the heat of the morning. I'll tie a knot in Rainbow's End, challenge the trees, light my candle from the sun. I'll give you daylight for a friend, I'll do all of these, I'll prove that it can be done. I'm so much in love, like the little boy who races with the wind. No man loves like I love you, wouldn't you like to love me too? In the heat of the morning, in the shadow I'll clip your wings, and I'll tell you I love you, in the heat of the morning, in the...
What is that guitar? But it also has this like plonking quality to it as well, which makes it hard for me to determine what exactly is creating that little melodic through line. Oh my god, it's almost over. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to figure out what that is. Those strings kind of soaring in the background sound fabulous as well. It sounds like our man is quite smitten.
wings, and I'll tell you I love you, in the heat of the morning, in the heat of the morning, in the shadow I'll clip your wings, and I'll tell you I love you, in the heat of the morning.
Oh, we're fading out. Ah, over too soon. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and by the end of it, it was the fellas over there in the Last Shadow Puppets did the song justice, in that it stayed fairly true to the original, and the original's great now having heard it. So why veer too off course, I suppose. Yeah, I really, really loved this. All the elements of it. The bass work was fabulous. The drums weren't doing anything crazy, but they were just splashy enough to keep everything moving. The organ work, I'm still a little torn on some of those sounds I heard and what exactly were generating them. At times they sounded plonky, but then they also sounded like some like almost affected guitar. But yeah, curious. Regardless, I really enjoyed this rather short number for Mr. Bowie. The lyrical content was sounded very much like a man absolutely smitten, though the little bit about the clipping of the wings is a bit dubious. But aside from that, everything else sounded very much from the heart. So yeah, I enjoyed this track a lot. Let's get back to John and chop it up a bit more.
Raspberry Ripple is back. So you've had to listen to In the Heat of the Morning Bowie version. What do you reckon?
This was, well, didn't disappoint. Much like the first time I went off and listened to the proper original version of The Man Who Sold the World. This was a really fun experience. and in a way kind of educational, because like you get to go back to the source material, which then gives you new perspective on the only version up until then that you had heard before, and sheds light on decisions that they made versus the decisions that were made in the original. And it's all really quite interesting. In fact, when we're all done here, I'll probably go off and play those two back to back at some point this evening with a brew in my hand and kind of, do a little reflecting on it. Good.
For me, it's the same with like, as a early teenager, hearing all along the Watchtower, Hendrix version, then stumbling across Dylan's version,
Yeah.
and just appreciating both even more.
More, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's another thing. I mean, we sometimes look down our nose at covers for the reason why they did it and what
yeah,
they did or didn't do with it. But it is fun when this is how the perfect storm unfolds, and it's like the version you heard that you thought was the original or was the only version you knew of it led you to the original version, and you can, oh my God, this is like this great revelation that you have.
yeah.
Um so yeah, it kicks off with a bit of like air under its wings as it instantly begins with this kind of jaunty movement by the rhythm section, both bass and drums bouncing ahead with a kind of optimistic gait that is only further enhanced by this almost whistling type melody that accompanies them. And there are also some lovely full sounding strings that provide a nice bit of richness and depth to the almost happy go lucky vibe I'm interpreting anyway. There is a nice little fill on the drums before Bowie's voice enters the frame. The lyrical content conveys a man who is smitten with the apple of his eye, matching the kind of aesthetic and mood of the music. Um, he sings of tantalizing eyes that are like the blazing sunset, capable of capturing any man's attention, and reliving a moment that he danced with this senorita, as he puts it. He acknowledges how in love he is, comparing himself to a ragged soldier catching butterflies, which the first time I heard that line in the last Shadow Puppets version, it made me laugh, and it only made me smile more when I heard it here from the man who I assume penned it. Then in the pre-chorus, he professes that no man will love her like he does, and then invites her to reciprocate that love all over the jaunty beat and those soaring strings. And just briefly, the strings cut out, leaving the rhythm section to his little punctuative notes as like Bowie delivers the titular line. But then he sneaks in this interesting line about how in the shadow he'll clip her wings, which could be interpreted as like, stealing her heart and thus solidifying her commitment to him. But there's also this inherent dubious nature
Yeah.
to the act of clipping the wings of a bird, like an unnatural way of keeping it under your control. And I'm not sure which version of this phrase he was aiming for. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because every other aspect of the song sounds so like lovey-dovey and in love that maybe it's just a turn of phrase that hasn't aged well with time. Nonetheless, it just kind of stood out to me as the only part where I was like, ooh, no. He dismounts the chorus by singing that he'll tell her he loves her in the heat of the morning. And as subtle as it is, I really love how he delivers that bookending line of the chorus, which is also the titular line, and how the music pulls back, just leaving the beat before that melodic motif dances around a bit, with that whistle-like key motif joining in. And it's weird because the melodic bit at times I'm like, is that like like a guitar with some affectation, or is it not? Because like I hear like toward the end of it, I hear what sounds like the resonance of a plonk and less of a pluck, if that makes any sense. So I'm trying to figure out like what is creating that sound. Go ahead.
You do the bit that goes do, 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 do,
Yeah,
do.
that little melodic.
That's an organ.
Oh, that's the organ. Okay, gotcha. Um, the next verse continues this theme of him professing how much he loves her and the lengths he'll go to convey that love, tying a knot in the end of a rainbow, challenging the trees, and lighting a candle via the sun. to give her daylight as a companion. It's all, really over the top, but sweet nonetheless. And this time he compares himself to a little boy who races with the wind, um, rather than the bedraggled soldier and butterfly motif from earlier in the song. So yeah, we get treated to another pre-chorus and then two more choruses that are separated by a nice mini break, and that melodic run from earlier. After the second chorus, we get another mini break before the bass signals a return to the music and ushers in this lovely flourish on the organ. This time I'm certain that it's an organ. This ebbs for just a moment before continuing to pick back up. And just as it does, the song then slowly begins to fade out to completion. So yeah, this is it's really nice getting a chance to hear the original version of this song, as I've, let me echo that for the umpteenth time. It's a bit less jaunty and splashy than the version by the Last Shadow Puppets, which like the tempo might be slightly more increased in that version. And I think obviously this is a song, quite an older version of this song that we listened to today that was recorded live. So the production quality, obviously, there's a large gulf in between those two, which is to take nothing away from this. I mean, you can only work with the time and technology you have at hand when you write, a piece of music. So that's not something I'm holding against them. It's just a clear difference you hear between the two. But it was a lot of fun being able to get to the source material that inspired a song that I've given a listen to before and really enjoyed. So, yeah, I could, without you having even mentioned it earlier before you sent me off to go give this a go, I could tell that this was earlier Bowie. You could hear it in the just the style of music. He had gone less, like, I don't want to say off the deep end because that suggests he went too far, but he went a lot farther than this and some of the shit that would come later in his musical career. So not to label this as safe, because it's that almost sounds like a pejorative, but and I don't want it to. This is safe in that it wasn't groundbreaking, but it's so good. You know what I mean? It doesn't take away any of the richness or quality of the music therein. So yeah, I really enjoyed the song a lot. So tell me a bit more here, John.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I picked this just because it's catchy and it's quite sweet and twee, and it's his early stuff, and before he gets experimental, and to an extent, he's still finding his voice. So this comes from Bowie at the Beeb, a compilation album. What you've got actually in there that's the leaflet that comes with it, because this is the bad boy itself, and it won't fit in the frame because it's a chunky monkey. It's just beautiful, all 8 sides of it. Cost me a fair whack, but yeah, absolutely adore it. I got my mate the CD of that actually years ago. It's only the last year or so I got it on vinyl. So yeah, the album reached it was released in 2000, and the album reached number 7 in the UK charts and certified gold, and it received a Metacritic score of 86. So In the Heat of the Morning is the first track. And it was sort of titled as David Bowie and the Tony Visconti Orchestra. It was recorded the 13th of May, 1968 for Top Gear, which is part of Radio 1 sort of stuff. And it was broadcast on the 26th of May, 1968. So just like a week and a half later, 2 weeks later. Personnel: David Bowie, a vocals, guitar, keyboard. And the Tony Visconti Orchestra is Herbie Flowers on bass, Barry Morgan drums, John McLaughlin on guitar, and Alan Hawkshaw on keyboards, with Tony Visconti on backing vocals and Steve Peregrine Took on backing vocals. You may or may not know that last person. He is the second half of Tyrannosaurus Rex with Mark Boland. He was the one banging on his bongos. Yeah, he had a life and a half as well.
What inspired him to take on the Peregrine Took in his name, which obviously tickles my fancy just hearing that name?
Oh yeah, there's many. It's a very long line of Peregrine Tooks from the Somerset Tooks. Yes. So, according to his then manager, we've got into a bit of his early stage about the problems he had with his managers, Bowie, but Bowie considered this song as a throwaway, written at a time when he was frustrated at his lack of chart success. It says one evening, David was sitting watching television But suddenly he took his eyes from the screen and said to me, I'm going to write some top 10 rubbish. Nothing on television could have prompted this remark, so he must have quietly been pondering the problem of his unsold records. The movements on the screen become as flickering flames of a coal fire. I don't think you could ever knowingly write rubbish of any kind, I said. He laughed and replied, Want to bet? You see nothing yet. I'm sure this is verbatim. As his memory dictates. And so he went away and he wrote, Let Me Sleep Beside You, which was neither rubbish nor top 10 material, but another very good song. He then wrote 2 other songs, which he also indexed under rubbish, namely Calmer Man and In the Heat of the Morning. So that's according to his manager. So the first studio version was recorded at Decca in March of '68 with Tony Visconti producing. It was completed with overdubs and changes on 29th of March. And then in April as well, which were Bowie's final sessions for the Decca label. Bowie and Visconti worked on London by Tatar, intended to be the B-side of In the Heat of the Morning during the same sessions, but Decca have already rejected When I Live My Dream for a single release, and they also turned down In the Heat of the Morning. This disappointment marked the end of his involvement with Decca. Again, according to the manager, he phoned up and he said, I was already planning promotion for the next single, which we expected to be In the Heat of the Morning. Arranged with David to perform the work on Under the Top Grade broadcast. When the news came through that Decca selection panel found the song on London by Tatar unsuitable for release. So imagine they have these songs come through for Decca and they got a panel there and they go, hit or miss. And then it's gone. Funny. I immediately phoned Hugh Mendel, Decca's artist manager, who I found to be sympathetic and now even more embarrassed by the action of his colleagues. He said, I cannot blame you if you wish to leave us. So In the Heat of the Morning remained unreleased until 1970, when Pitt selected the stereo mix for inclusion in the Decca compilation, The World of David Bowie. Mm-hmm. A newer, slower version of the songs recorded in 2000 for the aborted Toy album, again produced by Tony Visconti. That version is slightly slower and it kind of has like a woodwind motif rather than the organ. Still fairly similar. So the second BBC recording, which is what you heard, 13th of May, broadcast the 26th of May. This time, Bowie was accompanied by the Tony Visconti Orchestra, 14 musicians. They never, and I think in those days, they never named like the strings and stuff. They were just people who sat there and did stuff and never credited. But Hobie Flowers is a very famous bass guitarist, you know. Yeah. 5 songs were recorded in that: London by Tatar, In the Heat of the Morning, Calmer Man, 1 and 5, and Silly Boy Blue. All except for 1 and 5 were released on Bowie at the Beeb that I showed you there. So we're going to the lyrics. I think some of these lines are really sweet and some of them are hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've probably mentioned this again, but it is sometimes it just reminds me of sort of sixth form poetry. You know, very young man's prose, as it were.
Yeah.
They're quite sort of romantic in a way. But yeah, the blazing sunset in your eyes will tantalize every man who looks your way. I'll watch them sink before your gaze. Senorita, sway. Dance with me before their frozen eyes. I'm so much in love, like the ragged soldier catching butterflies. No man loves like I love you. Wouldn't you like to love me too? In the heat of the morning, in the shadow, I'll clip your wings, and I'll tell you I love you in the heat of the morning. That I'll clip your wings. It kind of, it is, I think, of its time, and it's the kind of thing that you can imagine, like someone, a parent saying to a cocky child in the '60s, "Hey, watch yourself, or I'll clip your wings." Meaning, you know,
exactly. Yeah,
you won't run away from you.
It's their version of "you're grounded," essentially.
I guess, yeah, but you know. From a 2026 it can be yeah. But there we go. I'll tie a knot in Rainbow's End, challenge the trees, light my candle from the sun. I'll give you daylight for a friend. I'll do all these. I'll prove that it can be done. Oh, I'm so much in love, like the little boy who races with the wind. This is a lovely image. No man loves like I love you when you like to love me too, in the heat of the morning. In the shadow, I'll clip your wings, and I'll tell you I love you in the heat of the morning. In the morning, in the shadow, I'll clip your wings, and I'll tell you I love you in the heat of the morning. And then we get, I put in brackets, all gonna go, and there's some vocalizing, and it finishes. So I will just one of the big reasons I picked this is because I just think that solo at the end is fantastic. William Allen Hawkshaw, 1937 to 2021. Sorry, he outlived Bowie. He was a British composer, and our British viewers will love some of this, and also performer, particularly of library music used for themes for film and television programs. Hawkshaw worked extensively for a KPM production music company in the 50s to the 70s, composing and recording many stock tracks which have been used extensively in film and TV. He was the composer of a number of theme tunes, including Grange Hill, which was originally library music recorded in Munich and called Chicken Man, and the theme to Countdown. Now, these are two massive programs in our country.
Yeah.
Born in Leeds, Hawkshaw worked as a printer for several years before becoming a professional musician. First joining the pop group, the Crescendos. You picture them all in satin. In the early 60s, he was a member of a rock and roll group, Emil Ford and the Checkmates, another great name. And then he formed the Mohawks band, and then Rumpelstiltskin was another band with some session musicians. At that time, Hawkshaw was an exponent of the Hammond organ, heard in the Mohawks music and also on the UK recording of the musical Hair. In 65, Hawkshaw played piano on the Hollies group composed album track Put Yourself in My Place, and included with the album The Hollies in 1965, and he featured a piano solo during that song. Hawkshaw was also featured playing with David Bowie on the Bowie at the Beeb album in a performance recorded for John Peel in Top Gear show in May 1968, in which he played a longer than expected solo on Heat in the World. So basically, he got a bit carried away. He was only supposed to do a couple of lines. Now, the cover version, as you said, by Last Shadow Puppets, all orchestras, the one I know. So it was the B-side for their single, The Age of the Understatement. And this is from Alex Turner himself. It was a single we'd done in the Heat of the Morning, which is the first track on Bowie at the Beeb. It's got a great melody. It's one of them where we both had the CD and we were both like, the first tune on that. And we were both like, yeah. It was very much part of the world we were in when we started writing stuff for The Age of the Understatement. So when it came to recording B-sides, there were some tunes we definitely wanted to do. The Girls and the Dogs by Scott Walker, Wondrous Place by Billy Fury, and this. Alex Turner, Uncut Magazine, 2008. So yeah, I think their version, which I heard was like the full orchestra version, would probably be very similar to what you heard as well. They've Scott Walkered it a little bit, which they did for the other song you gave me as well.
To be fair, you even hear that in Bowie's version of it too. It's just they turned it up and really magnified that aspect of the song with their version of it. So Scott Walker was in my brain as I was listening to this today during the reaction.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. They lean into it on this track and several others. It's sort of one of the trademarks isn't fair because it's Scott Walker's trademark, if anybody's, but it's one of the elements that the Last Shadow Puppets will definitely inject into their sound. So yeah, that totally checks out. That makes sense.
Bowie was a big fan of Scott Walker as well. I'm just looking at the vault now as we speak, because I'm just trying to see without referring it. Yeah. So Scott Walker 2 came out in 1968, same year. So it would have definitely been something that would have been rattling around inside his head.
Right.
And I really rate that as well. So yeah. Cool. So yeah, this is a bit of fun, early Bowie. Some of his stuff is truly dreadful. But this isn't one of them. I really love this song. And it's quite lighthearted as well. But yeah, it's another one to put in the Bowie catalogue, which will be added to the playlist of all the other Bowie stuff we've done. And you can go check it out for your delectation anytime. Thanks so much for listening to this, Andy. I should wrap things up.
Thank you.
Folks out there, tell us what you think. You enjoy a bit of organ play on the record. Please drop some comments. If you do like this, do hit the like button. We'd love to hear from you what you think about this. Everyone else got the Bowie at the Beeb album. I think it's great. But pretty much all of Bowie stuff is pretty good. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We do appreciate everybody who does support the channel. Yeah, we'd like to see you on board. So hop on, and more bad Bowie impersonations could be yours at the drop of a hat. So that being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audio Files.
See you later, guys.